Okay, here we are. It's the first part of our 7-week series, our journey out of Egypt towards Mount Sinai, where we receive instructions for living the most deep and conscious and connected and meaningful and joyful life we can. And this week we're talking about Chesed. Chesed is the first character trait, and it's the most fundamental character trait we have. It's usually translated as loving kindness. And it's this idea of unconditional giving and being there for other people and making sure that other people are happy and making sure other people have what they need is the foundation of Tikkun Olam, fixing the world. Is the foundation of any relationship. You really want this in your partner. This is one of the main character traits you want to make sure that they're really looking out for other people. So the idea of Chesed is really unconditional giving, and in life we can really choose, do we want to be a giver in life or do we want to be a receiver? Are we always thinking about what's in it for me, what can I get out of things? Or are we thinking, how can I give part of myself, how could I make sure that everyone around me is getting what they need and they're happy? Someone said, I think it's been wrongly attributed to Winston Churchill, someone said you make a living based on what you get and you make a life based on what you give. So I don't know who said it, but it's a very good quote. We're really making our life, and really the key to fulfillment in life is giving. Just giving of ourselves, and we all know this, we all experience it in our life. When we're there for someone else, if you think back in the last 3 months, when did you feel best about yourself? When did you have the most self-esteem? And we know that self-esteem is made up of 2 things, self-confidence and self-respect. Self-confidence and self-respect, that makes self-esteem. So when did you have the most self-esteem and the self-respect? It's when you're doing things for other people, when you're there for other people. And we learn that with Chesed, when you're really giving of your time and your love, you're not losing out. Sometimes it's scary to be a giver, because if you're giving of yourself, you can lose. If I have 5 apples and I give away 1 apple, then it seems like I only have 4 apples, but our sages teach us that if we're really giving in the right way, we're not losing out. We are actually gaining. It's like if I have a candle and I take my candle and I light your candle. Now you have light and I haven't lost anything from my light. Another idea that our sages share is if you hold on to everything you have, it becomes stagnant. It's like a pool of water that's not flowing, and it just becomes stagnant and horrible. But if you let it flow, then more clean water comes in. There's an infinite source of love, an infinite source of compassion, an infinite source of giving. So the more we give away, we're not losing, we're actually letting new energy come into our own lives, and in that way we're building ourselves as well as building other people. One key thing for us to really remember is, how do we give love in a way that other people can receive it and handle it? We've got to make sure we're not giving it in our way. For example, my son, I love him so much, I often just take him and I'm kissing him and I'm playing with him and throwing him in the air. I just want to hug him, and he's just a little guy at the moment, and sometimes it's just a bit too much for him. So that the way I want to give love, I've got so much love for him, might not be the right way for him. And we learn about the 5 languages of love very quickly. It's physical affection and acts of service, like doing the washing up and cleaning the floor, spending quality time together, gifts, and words of appreciation. So you got to know your partner. How do they feel loved most? If my wife feels very loved every time I buy her a gift, but really I'm just telling her how wonderful she is the whole time, it's not really speaking her language. We need to understand how other people can receive their love. Another very important idea is to understand about giving to yourself, really learning to nurture yourselves. Many of us, we're so busy the whole time, we've got our jobs and we're thinking about other people all the time. How often do we think about ourselves? How often do you just give yourself a break and have a long hot bath, go and walk in nature, get yourself a massage? How are you building yourself? How are you giving to yourself? Because as I've said many times, you can only really give to other people in a good way if you've learned to give to yourself first, because otherwise you'll get depleted. You'll get depleted and you won't have what it takes to give to other people. So Chesed, there's also something called Chesed towards yourself. Another idea we need to think about is that you got to choose where you give your Chesed. For example, when I was leaving yeshiva, many people would come up to me to ask me questions or tell me their issues and problems. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to have loving kindness and I'm going to sit with them and I'm going to help them work through their issues. In the meantime, my wife was sitting on her own at home waiting for me to come home to help with the kids. So I was giving my chesed in one area but taking it away from an area that's actually more important. So we actually need to prioritize where we give our chesed. So I started saying to people, you know what, call me later. Once my wife goes to sleep, I'm happy for you to call me, but I'm going home now, because we've got to make sure that we're giving our chesed in the right place. Giving chesed to one place can often take it away from the other place. We've got to remember that. So chesed really is loving kindness, and unconditional giving really is the key and the foundation to our lives and what we're doing here. Judaism is a religion. Many religions say, you know what, religion is about my relationship to God and what can I do for God and with God and do all praying and meditation. Judaism is made up, most of the mitzvahs, most of the commandments are to do not between man and God, it's between man and man, how we can work with our fellow people, how we look after orphans and widows, visiting the sick, leaving parts of our field and giving charity to vulnerable members of society. Most of the mitzvahs really are about how to give, and our sages teach us that giving and acts of kindness is one of the pillars and the foundations that really keep the world up. So this is the first week. It's all about chesed, all about loving kindness. So we can just think about in your life, how much are you giving? How much of yourself can you give? How much are you giving to yourself? Are you giving in the right way? How could you be giving more to yourself and to other people? And to really see in our lives that if we give, we're not losing out. We're not losing out. We're really gaining more, because we're realizing our own potential as a person. And by sharing ourselves, that's how we get the ultimate fulfillment in our life. Thank you. I'll see you next week for Gevurah, strength and discipline.